Welcome to Land Academy. This is the Cash Flow from Land show, where we show you how to buy unwanted vacant land and sell it for more on the internet. I'm Steve Butala.
I'm Jill DeWitt.
We are your hosts. With over 15,000 completed transactions, we are the experts in this niche land flipping business.
We hold a drawing to win a free property every month. Enter to win by reviewing this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com. All right, let's get this show started.
Josh Sterling grew up in Lake Tahoe, California, and spent 5 years as an airline pilot. He is currently an air traffic controller at Detroit Metro Airport. He moved to Michigan and began real estate investing in 2009, where he currently owns and manages 125 units and flips 12 to 15 properties per year. He also runs a property management company called Epic Property Management. Josh Sterling, welcome, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Jill.
Pretty interesting. You know, it looks like we all have a lot in common. I'm from Detroit, and Jill's a pilot, so we could make this podcast 3 or 4 hours long if we wanted to.
Don't forget the California thing. I just picked up on that Tahoe there. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Usually people move west, man. You moved east.
You know what? They say you only move to Michigan for money or love. So we came here for, my wife is from a town called Trenton, just south of Detroit. And we came here to get into the real estate business and to be close to where she lives. So I guess both of those.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I have a zillion questions. So you moved to Michigan to get into the real estate business?
Yes.
Because I moved to Arizona to get out of the Michigan real estate business. And
Yeah, it was a combination of something. The airline life is, as I think Jill probably knows a little bit about, the airline life can jostle you around a little bit. And so part of that directed me here. And then I met my wife actually out in Las Vegas, of all places, on a vacation. And she was from here. And next thing you know, here we are. And actually the buy and hold market up here, I don't know what you were in exactly, but the buy and hold market is really actually excellent up here. I think it's a great little niche that we're in.
no, I'm sure it is. You know, I left Michigan in the, you know, when it had nowhere to go except up back then. So yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I always have to clarify when I do these things, because I think there's people all over the country. And if they're anything like most of my friends, I'm not actually in Detroit. In fact, I don't invest in Detroit at all. I wouldn't touch Detroit. We're about a half hour south of Detroit, and it's a world away. I mean, we're talking night and day difference.
Yeah. Well, I know that for sure. I know exactly where Trenton is. It's right before Toledo, right?
Yeah. We're probably about halfway between Detroit and Toledo, I guess you could say. It's basically the downriver market.
Right. So give us an overview on your industry, on the industry or the micro industry that you're in there. I mean, you must be doing something right if you've accumulated 125 units since 2009. That's great.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess a lot of it you could say was luck or fortunate timing on our part. We moved here back in 2009 and it kind of accidentally got into this. My wife had a property that she had bought at the peak of the market. The thing is still upside down to this day. We still have it as a rental. It was that far above market value. And so we had to rent it instead of sell it when she was doing some moving around. So we listed this thing for rent and came back, I don't know, an hour later, and we had 15 or 18 people that had called about it while we were out, and just kind of blew me away. I had no idea there was that much demand for rentals. Obviously, we were priced a little bit low on it and whatnot, but nonetheless, there was a huge amount of demand. So the light bulb just went on, and we rented that house out, and we ended up starting to try to figure out how we could accumulate more of these properties. And this was actually like 2008, so the market really hadn't even bottomed yet here, I don't think.
Right.
And we scrimped and saved and did all kinds of crazy things like 0% credit cards and stuff that, you know, it's just whatever we could do to get some funds together. Neither of us were really making any money at our jobs at the time, but felt like properties were on sale, and we ended up buying one more. So we had two. That worked, and I learned a few things from that. I realized that I could buy them. That was a kind of a turnkey property, my second. I realized I could buy them and fix them up myself, and even have some more value add into there. And started learning how to do the work. My dad is pretty handy, has always done this kind of work. Came out from California and spent a month with me. We did a third one, and it just started snowballing from there. And with the market timing, and I mean, these things were just on. Everything was on sale, and the rents were still strong. It was just really fortunate timing.
That's great. You know, I think it's great. I say this to my members. I haven't said it lately, but we have a ton of members, and one of the things that I try to communicate to our members is, if you're apprehensive about pulling the trigger on a deal, take an ad out in the paper, go on to Craigslist, or, you know, post it on the internet, wherever those things happen, and see if you can get a renter, or see if you can get, you know, whatever the end is for the property. See if you can sell it, or if you get any action. So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, you did it the right way. I mean, you own the property first, but if you found out, there's a lot of people who would go out and buy a house tomorrow if they knew they could rent it. Mm-hmm. So
right.
That's great.
And I remember thinking back, you know, before we had any rental properties, and I had the same thoughts that everybody else has. I mean, the common questions I get are, how do you ever find somebody to rent it? Or what if they tear up your house? Or what if they don't pay rent? And I had all those same fears. But as soon as you actually do one, you realize that none of it is that bad. There's really nothing that can be detrimental with a rental property. Even the worst case scenario, if you imagine it, and I've had some crazy stuff happen, you still come out ahead most of the times. There's just so many ways to make money if you buy the property right.
Man, you're sure in this with the right attitude. That there's we field those questions almost daily, I guess, Jill, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's got some different type of concern. You know, we try to alleviate a lot of those concerns because our business model is, I'd like to think it's the best of both worlds. We only pay cash for our property. Our typical business model is we buy a property for, you know, $1,000 to $5,000 a piece of vacant land, and then we sell it on terms for $100 or $200 or $300 a month for a really long time. Mm-hmm. Or we buy it for the same amount, $1,000 to $5,000, and then we make sure we can double or triple our money on it before we actually close on it. So, and Jill and I've done 15,000 deals this way since the 90s. So it's kind of a time-tested method, but it's always interesting to talk to. I mean, it's really interesting to talk to somebody like you who's sort of was forced to rent a property that you really didn't want to own. I think it's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what? Going into it, we had no idea that it was going to turn out and become what it became in the last really about 6 years, I guess it's been. So it was really just kind of a blessing in disguise going out to rent that property out.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what deals are you working on right now?
You know, lately we've started doing a lot more flipping. I wasn't doing really any flipping until a year and a half or so ago, but as with everywhere, the market really started to turn here, and there was more potential to do that. It also enabled me to bring on some more, grow my staff a little bit, grow my team. So I added a project manager, which helps with a lot of my rentals as well as the flips. I added an office manager. We added a full-time maintenance person. We increased the number of subs we use. So we really kind of grown the business side of things. So lately what we're working on is, right now I have a total of 5 flips going. I've got another, we'll close on one more this Friday, make it 6 going. In various stages, either just about to be listed or just about to be started all the way through. We've also been growing our buy and hold portfolio as much as we can. We'll still pick up single family houses when they make sense. And a lot of times with the price point that we're at, one of these flips can become a buy and hold rental almost with just the change of an entity for us. So that's something we're always looking to grow. And then we're always trying to add multifamily properties. Most recently, we added a 53-unit building right in our core market, and that was in the end of June this year we did that. So we've got quite a bit of work going into that one to try to get it turned around and improve the value there. On top of that, we've got a management company that we're always looking to grow. We basically manage properties for for other investors in our pretty tight-knit area that we're in, and we strive to manage those properties as if we manage our own properties. So that's kind of the whole ball game that we're working with here.
So what's the typical channel for how you source acquisitions that work? And then on the flip side, what's the typical sales channel for your flips?
Okay, so on the buy side, up until about a year ago, it was strictly MLS, and we really had no issues getting the inventory. And as the market started rising, inventory started drying up. We had to get a little bit more creative. We still will buy some stuff off the MLS, but it tends to be more in the case of we write an offer, we get rejected, but we're the backup, and then 3 months later they come back and want to see if we're still interested. So we end up getting quite a few properties like that still. Not many are we getting on our first offer, first time around. We just can't pay the asking prices for them. We have really grown our network of wholesalers. So the property we'll close on this week is from a wholesaler. We closed on one last week from a wholesaler and one about 2 weeks before that. And we're finally starting to get a few more deals that actually make sense coming across the desk. So between the MLS and the wholesalers, that's pretty much our acquisition side channel. And then on the sell side, it's just strictly MLS listing. We have been fortunate enough to sell a few of these prior to listing just through our network. But it's always been to the retail buyer. The end buyer is always usually the first time or second time home buyer, retail buyer.
Wow, it sounds like you have it figured out. Hey, is your wife involved? Does she work with you?
She is. My wife is excellent, very, very supportive of this. She probably couldn't tell you where half of the houses that we own are. But I could tell her tomorrow I'm buying a $2 million apartment building, and she would say, okay, what do you want for dinner? So that's kind of her part in it. She is, in an effort to get her more involved, she went ahead and got her real estate license. So she's actually our agent on all these sales.
Oh, that's helpful.
She does a great job with that. She's not, in all honesty, she's not really the driving force behind it, but she's so supportive of it that we've found a way to make it work really well.
Hey, if you could find a way to clone a supportive wife, you'd make twice as much money at that.
I'll tell you what, so she might not know where half these houses are, but I don't know if you've ever read the Warren Buffett book, The Snowball. It's all about his life. Anyways, one key part of that it always stood out to me is his wife. Her name was Susie, I believe it was. She was kind of the same way I think my wife is. She didn't really care much about the investing, what he was doing, but she was so supportive to the point where he never made a meal for himself. He never did laundry. She was just such a good homemaker, and my wife is so much like that I can't tell you how much mental relief it is to not have to think about what you're going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all day long. Everything's ready to go for you. To not have to do laundry, to not have to, all the basic things that your everyday person does. I haven't done that. I don't think I've loaded a dish in the dishwasher in 5 years. We're very delegated. We're very segregated on what roles and responsibilities we have, and it just seems to work.
Can I say one thing here? Can I pop in here? Because I'm noticing a thing. Here it comes. No, this is good. Josh, you sound like my father. You can operate a multi-million-dollar airplane, but you can't operate a washing machine. Is that what I'm hearing? We used to joke with my dad about that. He couldn't figure out the washing machine. We're like, what the heck? What do you do all day long? And this? So I love it.
There's some brilliance in that, I think. A lot of brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, Bill Gates' father, he wrote a book called Showing Up for Life. And I would highly recommend it. And he said the same thing, but a different version of the same thing. He said, marry up, always marry above you.
Right.
And he said, when that happens, then you can actually be yourself and do what you go do what you need to do.
Yeah, and I do know some other guys and some other people that do this that maybe their spouse either is not only not supportive of it, but almost challenges it and it doesn't agree with it. And I can't imagine how tough that would be. I second guess myself enough that if I didn't have the undying support here, I don't think I would be nearly where we are right now and have nearly the potential to grow that we do. So even though she doesn't do much of the day-to-day, she really is a huge part of it.
I can't imagine that either. I can't imagine going to work and wondering who's on your team and who's not on your team. And there's enough of that difficulty in the day-to-day real estate operation. You don't need it from somebody at home either.
Right.
Well, cool. What's your, you met your wife in Las Vegas. I'm sure there's a story there, but what's your whole story from, take us from deciding to leave Lake Tahoe to Michigan to, right up to yesterday.
All right. Well, I grew up in Lake Tahoe most of my life there from when I was about 4 years old or so. My parents decided to move there and grew up, there's one middle school, one high school, a real small town. And really growing up there, all I wanted to do was get out of this small town. I had no appreciation for it. I've since learned to appreciate it very much, and I get back there as much as I can, see family and friends and whatnot. But I just wanted to get out of there, and I was looking. I'd always been told, what do? You go to college, you get a good job, you buy a house for yourself, and you work at that job until you retire, and everyone is fat, dumb, and happy, and that's exactly what I went for. So I went to what's one of the best. I'm sure that Jill, your dad, would know about. I went to a school called Embry-Riddle all the way in Daytona Beach, pretty much as far as you can get from Tahoe, and I went there, and I really I did everything I could to finish that degree as best as I could. I graduated almost top of my class. Really busted my butt in college. Got out of college. The real estate market was just about peaking, but of course I didn't know that. I just thought, man, I better buy something now because it's going to be more expensive next month. And so we went out, and I went and bought a condo in Altamont Springs, right outside Orlando. And I stepped back, and I thought, for a minute at least, look, I've gone to school, I've done great, exactly like I'm supposed to do. I bought a place for myself to live. I was like 22 years old at the time. For a month or two or a little while, I thought I really had it figured out. I'd done everything, the perfect prescribed path. And I'm an airline pilot at a young age, and things were looking great. Fast forward a few months, and I start to realize things weren't so great. I've got this condo that I can already see declining in value. I probably bought this on the highest ever price that anyone's paid. I mean, literally the peak of the market. If there was a peak, I went up and probably paid above market value for it. Terrible timing. As I'm sure Jill, your dad, can vouch for it, but airline pilots really don't make any money starting out. Once you get to the majors and get some experience under your belt, there's some potential, but there's no guarantee you're getting there. So I was a couple years now into the airlines. I was making $30,000-$40,000 a year. I mean, it was not great. I had $175,000 in student loans, and I kind of did another stop and check yourself. And I thought, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. Why? I'm upside down on this condo by a lot, $100,000 or so. I'm not making any money. I've got all these student loans, and it was just discouraging. And really, the straw that broke the camel's back here was I had taken an airline job where I was a captain on a new airplane at a new company, and that's really how you move up and progress in the industry. And I did it for about a year and a half, and out of nowhere the company just cut themselves in half. I mean, we're talking 3 weeks notice, and that equaled like a 50% pay cut for me, and it was just like knocked me back to square one. And it was so discouraging that I just said, you know what, I got to do something different. I've tried the right path. I was about 4 or 5 years into the career at that point. I've tried the right path. I'm going to have to do something for myself. My dad had always talked about, he's always kind of worked for himself and made his own way. And
a lot of people, Josh, a lot of people listening to this can really identify with what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you don't want me to talk to your kids about college. I'm against it now. But so, I sat back and I said, you know what? I really don't have anything to lose at this point. I mean, I'm going to just try to do something on my own. And right about that time was right about when I had met my wife, right about when we had gone to rent out her property. So it was just the recipe was right. And, it was maybe fortunate timing. And that's it. And we started buying these rental properties, and it just started snowballing.
Boy, that's great. I mean, so your tragedy ended up being in somewhat of, in a weird, strange way, a help toward your success.
Absolutely. I would have never, had I had that airline not cut in half and I would have kept the job, I was starting to move up the pay scale and everything. I would have never quit the airlines. And I would have never got into real estate. And it was a huge blessing in disguise.
It's a great story, man. So aside from don't go to college, do you have advice for people who are starting out?
I'm not against going to college, but if I could do it again, I would do it a heck of a lot differently. For one, I would go to a college that was much more economical. I mean, you get out of school with $175,000 in student loans. I mean, that's no joke. That's a serious burden. That put me in a huge hole. I would go, but I think I do believe in college. My wife and I debate this all the time for any future kids that come our way. There's, she's a big fan of going to college. And I think the growing up, the character building, that's huge. But I think that you also can't go to college with the mindset that I'm going to do well, get a good job, and work a career. At least not for me. I'll tell you one thing I've learned is that I don't think my occupation is around. Kind of like Jimmy Buffett says, I've had some really cool jobs, and every one of those jobs, I end up. I'm just not cut out for working for someone else. I think
that's great.
So
I think you said it. I think it's great.
Right. So if I could do it again, I think I would go off to college, but I would look at it in a little bit different perspective, more of as an experience and as a growing step. But I would keep my eye on always looking for that opportunity to do something for yourself. And, if real estate interests you, I talk to people all the time. I'm constantly going to different RIA meetups and different networking events, and you can see the guy a mile away who's actually going to make something of this, and you can see the guy who wants to get into it but won't do anything for years.
So what are those? I have to ask you more details about that. What is the guy? What do those two people look like to you?
So the guy. Well, let me tell you the more fun one to talk about. The guy that's actually going to make something happen, and I can name 3 or 4 of these guys right now that you can see this from the day you meet them. That they're going to make something happen. What it looks like is they've got the drive. Sometimes you can see that in both of these characters, but you can see the drive, you can see the spark in their eye. But what makes it happen is you meet them. For example, one guy I met, his name is Tom. I meet Tom at a networking event, and he's brand new. I don't think he had done a deal yet. I mean, he was real new. And he's telling me how he's got these ambitions, what he's going to do, what he wants to make happen. And he asked for some advice. I said, if I were you, I'd go out, I'd get some money right now. I would, whatever you can do to get that money. I mean, if you really want it, you'll get 0% credit cards. You'll get a unsecured line of credit. You'll find friends and family. You'll find it if you really want to do it. I said, if I were you, I'd go out and I'd find some money so you can buy a rental, and I would get my real estate license if you want to grow as much as you do. I told him that. No joke, 30 days later, the next monthly meetup for this thing, he walks up to me and goes, I got my real estate license, and I got $40-something thousand, and I got a contract on a rental. I mean, that's the guy that's going to have more units than we do in 5 years, even though he just started out. He's that drive. And I know, I'm sure these guys will listen to it. Mike, I know another guy, Grant, all these guys, they're all fairly new, but you can just see this drive in these guys. And really they take action. They get out there and do it. And I can name 100 guys who I've met who really want to get into rentals, really want to get into real estate, they say, but they don't take the first step.
Right.
So
yeah, we have tons and tons of members, new members every day, and it's very clear to me in the same way who really wants it bad enough and who doesn't. And I think that people who really want it really, really badly are not sweating the little details. You don't hear them complain a lot about the tiny little, I call them, speed bumps that happen. Like there's no roadblocks. There's only speed bumps.
Right. So if that's a good thing to touch on there too. I'll tell you what, when I started out, I was so much worse off than all these guys I talked to that actually make something happen now. I mean, for one, I had no one to tell me. I didn't even know what a RIA group was. You probably know a little bit here, Steve, about what a land contract is. I think this is a funny story. So the house that we saved up all this money, it was $40,000 at our first rental we bought as an intended rental. it was turnkey, ready to go. And to me, that was a lot of money. And we scrimped and saved and pulled this cash from everywhere. And we found this turnkey, ready to go or so house. There was a huge sign in the window, no joke, a 5-foot by 5-foot sign in the window that said land contract terms available. And I told my wife, I said, I don't know, that sounds like a scam. I think we should just pay cash for it. I could have probably bought 2 houses and saved my capital, but I just didn't know any better. And I mean, you name it. I really had a lot to learn when I first started out. So, but what you don't know won't hurt you. And luckily, just like you said, nothing is bad enough. I feel there's really nothing that can happen that would derail someone's investing career. I mean, you could have all kinds of bad things happen on a house and you're still going to come out in the long run making money. That's the beauty of buy and hold. With enough time, you'll make up for any mistakes.
We have our main program for people who are starting out is called $10,000 a month for life. And I'm a big fan of deconstruction. So it completely deconstructs what you want out of this thing. And in this case, it's $10,000 a month for life. And a lot of our members make a heck of a lot more than that. But it takes a look at the whole thing. You deconstruct it step by step by step. You got to do this, and this, and you'll get there. And no matter what happens, you can't skip these steps, or you can't take them not seriously because you don't like Facebook or for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And you can see right away who takes that seriously and who doesn't. Mm-hmm. Hey, for the record, a land contract is it's just terminology. It has nothing to do with land. It's just a different term for seller carryback.
Right.
It's a Midwest term for terms or seller carryback. That's it.
Where were you to tell me about that 6 years ago? Right.
I was failing in real estate just like everybody else at that time.
Awesome.
So,
I love it.
Summarize your advice for us, Josh, please. For someone who's starting out, what would they do?
Well, I think first things first is you've got to sit down and decide if you really want this. If you decide this is what I want and my goal is, I usually actually tell people to maybe not $10,000 a month like you said. I think for some people that's a big step, but I was told a long time ago, if you think about it, financial freedom, all you really need to be financially free is you need to determine what it costs you every month to live. For a lot of people, especially back where I was when I started, that might have only been like $3,000 or $4,000. Mm-hmm. So even with all those student loans and all this stuff, so if your number is, let's say, $3,000, that's all you need to make. And I tell people if they're starting out and that's what their goal is, sit down, determine what that number is. I haven't really touched on it, but I'm a firm believer in the living below your means method. If you need to make $10,000 or $12,000 or $15,000 a month to get by, you've got a long road to hoe to get to be financially free. So first, I tell people I think you need to pick that number out if that's your goal. Second, you got to just go out there and do it, because like you said, I mean, I've never used the speed bump terminology, but I'm going to steal it from you because it's perfect. There's really nothing that is going to be detrimental to your career or to the what you're trying to build here. Mm-hmm. Just get out there and do it, and it will work itself out. I know that's probably not what a lot of experts will say. A lot of people will say you need to get in the books, you need to learn. But I know way too many people that learn and never do. And I think you're better off to go, I use it a lot, to go ready, fire, aim.
That's great.
If you can use that approach and have an idea where your goal is in mind, I bet you most people could go financially free in 2 years. I think it'd be that easy to do, even in today's market.
Jill and I are rolling out a product in the first quarter of next year called 24-Month Millionaire. And I agree with that 2-year assessment.
Hey, there you go. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
For us, the $10,000 number came from this. We buy properties for a few $1,000. We sell them for $100 or $200, sometimes $300 a month. And I think the vast majority of people could very easily live on $5,000 a month, like a whole family. So what do you do with that extra $5,000 after a while? You just pour it into more real estate. So you're doing 1 or 2 or 3 more deals a month. And pretty soon, that's some serious money without borrowing anything or really doing, because it's vacant land that we deal in. So I agree with you. If you need $10,000 to cover your monthly expenses, you might want to ask yourself a whole different set of questions.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Hey, at the end of every program, Josh, Jill and I try to title it. So we don't give the program a title at the beginning. We usually do it at the end based on what we're talking about and who we're speaking with. Jill, do you have any ideas?
Got it.
Go.
I've had multiple that I could have pulled from. Some were appropriate, like the real estate snowball I like. Marry Up, I thought about that one a little bit. I thought that might be good. But know what I really like? I like the Ready, Fire, Aim. I think that rocks.
That's one of my favorites.
That's a good one. I'm putting a note right now on my desk to keep that staring at me because that's really good advice. So it's Ready, Fire, Aim.
I got a couple of them too. I have Josh's 2 months of success. You know how some people have 15 minutes of fame? 2 months of success. And I think Long Road to Hole is pretty, for a lot of reasons, I think that's pretty funny. But awesome. In the end, always we go with what Jill says. Very
of course.
Thank you. Ready, Fire, Aim by Josh Sterling. Love it.
Hey, Josh, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for sharing your success.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
I wish you all the best.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Hi.
Seems like a real good guy, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's funny. There's just some people you could talk forever. Some people it's like painful. You're trying to get the knowledge and the value out of it, but he's the whole package. I mean, he's
fearless.
He's lived on both coasts. I mean, I hate to say it, reminds me a lot of me. He's lived around. He's lived, not just in California, and despite how you tease me in Disneyland, but he did the corporate thing and he got trapped in this, and he did went to school, get all this debt, get into this life. He's on his way, and then talk about a major setback. I mean, what he described is so darn real. I mean, you heard his numbers. I mean, that's so true. You think you arrived. I'm making $30,000-$40,000 as a captain. That's not a lot of money.
Yeah. With $150,000 of school debt and an upside down condo and.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about, okay, now I want to look at starting a family and all this stuff. Hold on, everyone.
Yeah.
So, what a great thing. He kind of fell into this, not on purpose. And then, it kind of like a lot of us, it saved him. It's a great story, and
super young too. I love when people are just so young and he just gets it. It seems like anyway.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I could have talked to him all day. He's just really fun and good stories, and he's doing the right thing too. He reminds me of us. He's showing up to our way is Land Academy and giving back that way. And I think his way of giving back is going to these REI events and helping the young kid and getting him motivated and giving him a couple little tips and saying, I want you to check in with me in a month. And,
Sure. There's a lot of benefits from that. It just comes back to you. The more people that you have in your group, we have now tons and tons and tons of people, and consequently we're talking about more deals. We're feeding them deals, they're feeding us deals. It's just I love that approach to it.
Yeah, really, really good.
He's one of the guys I'd like to check back with in like a year.
Yes, that's a good one. That's a good idea. We should keep a little note of the year updates with X, and stuff like that. So that's great advice or great idea.
Ready, Fire, Aim, huh?
Yeah, I like that. God, what's funny? You and I walk around doing that all the time.
I know.
I just didn't know there was a name for it.
or a Second Amendment gun analogy or something. Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's just like that's kind of how you and I go through. Like, we'll fix it later. Just get it out there, Jill. Right? I just revised the ebook. Come on, and we made a few tweaks. We just want to hurry up and get stuff out there and get back when we started, get it in people's hands, and get some stuff for them. So
I'm not afraid of any of this. Are you? Is there anything that concerns you at all?
No.
We said this on this program before, you and I. It was quite some time ago. Is there any circumstance or anyone that could call that you can even dream of that really concerns you? Like, oh man, I don't want to go through that. There really isn't for me either, Jill.
Yeah, nothing that would stump me. There's and we've done. I think it's experience.
Let me give you a couple examples. I was thinking about this earlier. Let's say half the people who who purchase property from us and they're paying every month. Let's say the bottom of the economy fell out, and more than half of the people, they just stopped paying. It doesn't scare me at all. There's all kinds of stuff we could do. We could reduce because we control the asset then again.
Whoa.
We could reduce the prices. We could sell some of them for cash, for pennies on a dollar. I mean, with this business model, anyway, let me finish the thought. So if we had 25 or 50 rental houses and half the people stopped paying and there was mortgages and stuff, oh my gosh, that would be tragic. It would probably sink the ship.
You're right. You know what I would do with our properties because they're paid for? I'd say, all right, fine. Now it's going to, instead of, 40 months, it's 80 months. And we're going to drop your payments to this. What can you afford? And let's work this out together.
I mean, just when people default, and it happens in every situation, it's really easy. We don't have to go back in and clean the house up and replace the carpet. We just resell the asset with the pictures that we used the last time.
Exactly. Very true. Yeah. I do sleep really well at night because of that.
Good, me too.
Yay. All right. I'm ready.
Josh Sterling.
Yeah, that was fun. Good guy.
Yeah.
That was really good. Really good guy. Good stories.
Let's go buy some property.
We hold a drawing to win a free property every month. Enter to win by reviewing this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com.
If you want to get involved or you need more information about our profitable, niche real estate operation, call 480-467-0359. You just might get Jill at the other end of the line.
landacademy.com. You are not alone in your real estate ambition.